Yes, I was involved in one of my first cases as a lawyer, private lawyer.
Bokana suma njëlbeni case yooyu nga xam ne mooy jamono bi nga xam maa ngi nekk lawyer, private lawyer.
It was a German guy who bought a huge piece of land in Tranquil.
Di benn doomi German boo xam ne ni dafa jënd pàkk bu yaatu ci Tranquil.
In 1991.
Ci atum 1991.
Fenced it.
Mu dal di ko fence.
And leased it.
Dal di ko lease.
And allowed the locals to farm on it.
Te tamit bàyyi na nii ñu nekk di ci bay.
Around sometime in 97.
Ci yenn jamono 97.
The alcalo of Bijulo and 5 other agents.
Alcalo bu Bijulo ak yeneen juróomi agent.
They marketed the land into 22 plots.
Ñu daldi dog nag jàtti joo ci ñaar fukki plot ak ñaar.
And sold it to different people.
Ñu jaay ko ay nit.
So I was his lawyer.
Ma nekkoon lawyer am bi.
So I filed a suit.
Ma daldi def benn kalaame.
Get possession and evict the trespassers.
Pour nag ñu daldi àtte nag ñi nga xam ne ñoo ko def.
One of those trespassers.
Kenn nag ci ñi nga xam ne nii ñoo def loolu.
Was a Dutch guy.
Waa doomi Dutch la.
And his lawyer.
Lawyer am bi.
Was Lamin Jobarteh.
Lamin Jobarteh la woon.
I think commonly known as Babanding.
Ñu xam ngeen koo xamee Babanding.
I recall, and so I wrote to all the, before I even filed my suit, I wrote to all the trespassers.
Ci balaa may àggale na suma
to give them notice.
Tawat boobu nag dama bind nag ci ñëpp ñi nga xam ne ñoo ko def.
Is Babanding that you're referring to?
Kan mooy Babanding mi nga wax ni?
Lamin Jobarteh.
Lamin Jobarteh.
Was he one time Minister of Justice?
Yes. He became, I'll get to that. At the time, he was a private legal practitioner. I remember, so he called me to a meeting. We met at Baobab Lodge. With my client, Band George Dietrich, German. And his agent, Aliou Bari. So I told him my client has a lease. So can I see it? We took out a lease. Original document, looked at it, checked it out. Showed him receipts of land rent paid up to date. He said, okay, I'm not going to fight this case. There's no point. But my client has already built a story building here. So I agreed, let's value the land and you pay off and we forget about the issue as far as you're concerned. He agreed. We went to court. And so he never participated in the court proceedings. We went to court with everybody else, including his defendants, including his client. With the understanding that when we have judgment, we will settle. That was understanding. So when we had, by the time we had judgment, he became Attorney General. And everything changed. We had judgment. We went to execute. And some of the judgment debtors settled. One of them was Mohamed Silla. He settled through his lawyer, Ida Drammeh. So he paid my client the agreed amount. And can you believe Mr. Jobarteh?
Mr. Jobarteh
orchestrated the arrest, charge, detention, and deportation of my client. He claimed that my client did not pay tax, capital gains tax on that settlement. He got my client first detained at Bruceby Station.
ci lañ jàpp nag suma client bi ci Bruce bi police station.
At the time I was working with my senior Mr. Mene. I brought him in because the case was very hot and very contentious.
jamono boobu nag maa ngi liggéey ak suma kenn si suma kilifa di Mene na mbir moom lu diis la woon.
That's lawyer Chris Mene.
di lawyer bu ñu xamee Chris Mene.
So I decided to go to the Bruce police station.
ma dem nag si Bruce police station bi.
And I asked one of my colleagues, Omar Jawara, who's a friend and a lawyer, to accompany me.
kenn suma xarit lawyer la Omar Jawara mu ànd ak man.
When I went there,
bi ma fa demee.
the police told me I will not meet the client.
ci lañ ma wax ne du ma gisante ak suma client bi.
He was behind bars.
ndax boobu mu ngi si kaso ñu ngi ko téye.
Then Babanding calls.
Babanding na call.
Tells them, arrest any lawyer who comes here.
ci la wax ne jàpp leen lawyer bu fa ñëw rek téye leen ko.
And he actually threatened me.
tey tamit nag ci la ma doon tikku.
Threatened me. I should, if I know what's good for me, I should leave this case.
ci la ma wax nag ne bu fekkee ne xam naa lu gën ci man naa génn si case boobu.
And did he tell you this personally?
Yes.
te moom moo la ko wax ni jaxaran.
On the phone, he told me.
si téléphone.
I mean, if you see, I will tell him in his face. He told me.
loolu la ma wax.
I mean, and Mr. Mene was also threatened.
Mr. Mene tamit ñu dal di ko tikku.
If he came, he would tell you.
su fi ñëwee dana la ko wax.
By the same Babanding.
Babanding si boppam.
Because he had so much control over the police, because he was an ex-security person.
ndax moom ku doon yëngu ci wàlli kaaraange la.
Police, NIA, he got it all locked down. He controlled.
dafa control ñëpp policier ak NIA yëpp.
In the end, my client was taken to mile 2.
mu jéegi suma client bi ñóbbu ko mile 2.
Imagine you own your property, you invest in a country, you bought your property.
nga jënd sa def sa xaalis si réew jënd sa.
stole your property.
ñu nangu sa ñu sàcc ko.
You ended up being locked up.
nga mujjee ñu tëj la.
And they were saying, oh, this guy is a tubab. I said, tubabs don't have rights.
ñu laa wane ay kii tubaab la kanaa tubaab amul yelleef.
Locked up. This guy he's a psychiatrist, a very well reputable psychiatrist in Germany.
nekk na ni koo xam ne nii.
Highly educated.
ku am xam-xam la ci jamono.
High net worth individual.
waaw ku am
Put him in
jokkoo.
mile 2 with this Salieu Taal. And then they bundled him and deported him out of this country.
ñu dal di ko jàpp yóbbu delloo ko réewam.
I would like to exhibit the article that actually carried the story.
dama bëgg a teewal fii nag li nga xam ne nii mooy xibaar yi nga xam ne nii moo wax mbiram.
With the permission of the chair.
ci ndigalu chairman bi.
You're saying that the Attorney General at that time, Mr. Babanding Jobarteh,
Attorney General Babanding Jobarteh
used his office as if it was his private office to fight a civil matter,
yes,
in which he was involved in while he was a private practitioner. And he used state resources to enforce it.
That is correct. I'll find it. Don't worry. That is correct. And it didn't even stop there. I'm sure most of you remember that recording that led to the imprisonment of Justice Wowo and co.
Justice Wowo ci leen ko jàppoon ak ñeneen.
Please give us a brief background about it.
So basically, sitting Minister of Justice,
mooy ministre bi justice bi toog si siis bi jamono boobu.
Summons Justice Wowo,
or Justice Wowo,
my client and his attorney,
suma client bi ak lawyer bi,
and Mr. Mene, who's a lawyer who was now handling the case. I stepped back.
Mr. Mene mi nga xam ne ni moo mujjoon téye mbir mi gannaaw boo xam ne ma dellu naa gannaaw.
A fourth lawyer, Nigerian lawyer.
ak ñeenteel bi di benn doomi Nigerian di lawyer.
And they met at Jobarteh's house.
ñu dal di tasee ci néegi ki Jobarteh ba këram.
And this is a matter that actually was in the Court of Appeal at the time, because the judgment that was appealed, the High Court judgment.
lii na nekk na jamono boo xam ne nii ñu ngi ko doon d'appel ci
And at that point in time, Justice Wowo was president of the Court of Appeal.
Justice Wowo moo nekkoon president of the Court of Appeal.
You know that. They met and discussed. And Mr. Jobarteh basically was telling
Mr. Jawara
tell his client to accept 1 million. That 1 million you've been hearing in that tape.
Wow, $1 million.
Because that probably is what way more than that. At that point in time, my client was like, I'm not going. Before, my client was happy to take 1 million, but when it went that far, he said no, I will only take the market value. So, Mr. Justice, Minister of Justice at the time,
Minister of Justice,
who is also the lawyer of this Dutch guy, I think his name is Andre, was putting pressure on my client
to
accept a settlement of 1 million. And he said, you know, the judge is here. He's already seen the file. And just so there's a recording. I'll give it to you. Just so said, well, I've already seen the file. You're better off settling. But little did they know that my client had a recorder. And that was a recording that went viral. But for the record, they were not trying to bribe Justice Wowo. What was wrong about it was not about the bribery, it's about the presence at that meeting.
And this was a matter that was sub judice before Justice Wowo.
Yes. And he had a meeting outside the court with Mr. Mene. The client, Mr. Mene accompanied his client. He was asked to come by a client.
Mr. Mene
and the client's attorney Aliou Bari. They were called by Mr. Jobarteh, and he went there with the view that they want to settle something. And then he found Justice Wowo was there. So, if you look at one of the petitions I submitted, during the time Lumna was president, was actually a complaint against the people who attended that meeting. I mean, I can also, I have some documents I think I can.
Is it the petition that has Mr. Mbouch, Mene, and other lawyers?
Exactly.
We'll submit it later before the commission.
Exactly. So basically, I mean, in the end, I mean, Justice Wowo ended up being fired. That audio went to the President Jammeh. Then he fired and locked up Justice Wowo. I think also the Minister of Justice also, I think, took a fall.
Minister of Justice
even though I don't think the way the President fired Wowo was constitutional. Because there's a way there's a way that judges are disciplined. He did not follow the procedure. He just fired him and sent him to mile 2.